Hello everybody, and welcome to Prospects Providence. Today is a very special video, as we are going to be going over my 2021 MLB Mock Draft. By the time I'm recording this now, the draft is only a couple days away. We are so close, ladies and gentlemen, to one of my favorite times of year. I love the MLB Draft, and I cannot wait for this draft to come up. So I'm giving you guys my mock draft and what I think is going to happen in the first round of this draft. So before we get started, we need to lay down a couple of house rules. Number one, these are based off of my evaluations of these players. My evaluations of these players might look different than, say, MLB Pipeline's evaluations of these players. If your favorite team, if I happen to pick a player that you don't really know about or you don't think is good for your favorite team, just understand that these are my evaluations, these are my opinions. I don't let other sources get in the way of my own opinions. Number two, the money and the slot value for these prospects will play a decent part into the selection of these players. Obviously, I do not have inside information for what these players are asking for, but as we'll go along, sometimes a player's value has to be taken into account with how much money they're looking to take. That will play a decent amount into this mock draft, but it won't play a huge amount. Like, it's not going to be dictated off money. So with all that being said and out of the way, let's get right into this draft. And we're going to start off this draft number 1 overall with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They will be selecting Marcelo Mayer, shortstop out of the California high school ranks. Marcelo Mayer seems like the pick for the Pirates. He's one of the best prep bats in this class, as I discussed in my video about him versus Jordan Lawler and over who was better. Marcelo Mayer really seems like one of the best upsides in this draft. He's one of the best bets. He's a really good hitter. He's got great raw power. He's a really good shortstop defensively. He's got a very strong arm. There isn't a lot of things that the Marcelo Mayer does really wrong. In fact, you can even convince me that, like, you can get him a little bit under slot so that the Pirates can do some other things elsewhere. And I think the Pirates are going to go with a position player. It seemingly looks like they want to go position player over a pitcher. And so with this first pick, they're going to be getting Marcelo Mayer. Alright, so for the Rangers here, pick number 2, we have Jack Leiter on the board. And they are going to be selecting, they're going to be selecting Jack Leiter, right-handed pitcher out of Vanderbilt. The Rangers really need pitching help badly. And while obviously you don't really draft for need, the Rangers really need to add something to this rotation. Cole Winn is really their only pitcher I really like in their farm system. And even then, he's more of a back-end kind of number 2, number 3 starter. They need someone who can give them a little bit more upside. Jack Leiter is that pitcher. He is a bit of a 2-pitch pitcher. He's got his great fastball, and he's got his really good 12-6 curveball. The changeup still needs to be improved upon. His other pitches need to be improved upon. Right now, he's a little bit of a 2-pitch pitcher, but I personally think that the Texas Rangers will love Jack Leiter, and I do not buy the noise of him trying to go to Boston by outpricing himself out of the first 3 picks. So with all that being said, let's head over to the Motor City and where the Detroit Tigers are picking 3rd. They will select catcher Henry Davis out of Louisville. This is a very, very, very talented prospect for them. Henry Davis is a catcher. He's a catcher that offers a lot of upside. He's very patient. He's got an elite power. He's got really good raw power. I would probably grade the raw power of like a 60 out of like a 65 out of 80. It's a huge amount of raw power. Massive exit velocity. He's really good on base. Good hitter. Just not a lot of things to dislike about Henry Davis. I think he needs to improve on his receiving skills a little bit, and they might even move him off catcher. But to me, I think you need to take the best bat here available. But to me, Henry Davis is the best bat available. And Henry Davis will be heading will be heading to the Detroit Tigers number 3, with potentially even the idea of potentially moving him off catcher to move him elsewhere. Alright, so number 4 here, the Boston Red Sox. They're a little bit disappointed they don't get Jack Leiter, but so with this pick, I think they have to go best player available. I know that they've been kind of rumored to really want pitching, but in this mock draft, they're going to go best player available, and they're going to get Jordan Lawler, the shortstop out of Dallas Baptist High School in Texas. Jordan Lawler is one of the best players in this class. He's got a very great hit tool, really line drive swing, makes a lot of contact. He's a really nice athlete. He can run a little bit. He can really field at shortstop. I think he does stick at shortstop long term. The power, it's not the best just yet. I still think he needs to do a little bit more developing in terms of his power. But I think Jordan Lawler really is one of the best players in this class, and the Red Sox are very happy to get him at 4. All right, next up, the Baltimore Orioles are on the clock here, and they will be selecting Brady House, shortstop out of Georgia high school rankings. And Brady House, when you look at him, is a physical marvel. He's listed at 6'3", around 215 pounds, an absolute beast. And he's got insane raw power, but he's also pretty disciplined at the plate. He knows when to unleash his swing. He knows when to be a little bit more patient. Yeah, it's like, could he be a little bit more patient with the strikeouts? Yeah, maybe. But he's also a high schooler. And while there's always going to be discussion with that size and whether or not he'll be able to stick at shortstop long term, I think he's got a decent shot to stick at shortstop. I think he's an underrated athlete. But I do think he could stick at third base. And when you look at his throwing arm, which is absolutely elite, you look at his good reaction time, he could be an above-average fielder at third base. With all those offensive tools, you're getting an amazing player here. Brady House goes number 5 overall to the Baltimore Orioles, and they are very happy to get him. All right, Diamondbacks here at number 6. So, Diamondbacks here at number 6 need to get the best player available, and that to me is Khalil Watson, shortstop out of North Carolina. Very, very, very good prospect here. He's got really quick hands. He's got a lot of power built into his 5'9" build. Obviously, swing and miss concerns are there. The approach concerns are definitely there for Khalil Watson. I'm not sure of his ability to judge an off-speed pitch just yet. But what I am sure of is that he's a very good athlete. I think he might even profile better at second base, which, the Diamondbacks do have a little bit of a need at second base. But I think that Khalil Watson is one of the better prospects in this draft. Just an insane athlete. He's told up, and the Diamondbacks will be very happy to get him at number 6. All right, number 7. Kansas City Royals are on the clock here, and this is when we have our first hot take of this draft. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can take away one thing from this mock draft, do not sleep on this player I'm about to mention. He's not the pitcher you think I'm going to select. He's not the player you think I'm thinking of. No, ladies and gentlemen, it is Gavin Williams, the right-handed pitcher out of East Carolina University, will be going number 7 overall to the Kansas City Royals. Look, I know that's probably a name you haven't heard of yet, but listen to me and I'll explain why Gavin Williams is so good. Gavin Williams is an analytical darling. He is so much of an analytical pitcher. He has great vertical movement on his pitches. His TrackMan data is just insane, and Williams just is such a solid pitcher. He's a bit of a two-pitch pitcher right now, but to me, he reminds me of Kevin Gausman. And with that fastball and that changeup combination, with that break and that excellent changeup, he still needs to develop a little bit more of a third pitch. But I think that Gavin Williams is one of the most slept-on players in this class. I think the Royals are going to really like Gavin Williams. Please do not sleep on Gavin Williams. All right, number 8 here, the Colorado Rockies. This is going to be a little bit of under slot selection, but they're going to be taking Benny Montgomery, outfielder from Pennsylvania high school rankings. Benny Montgomery is a player that, like, you just really fall in love with. He's got very good power. He's got a decent hit tool. He is an insane athlete, so fast. He's a good fielder. He's about 6'4", 200 pounds. He's an athletic marvel. Benny Montgomery is one of the best athletes in this class. And I think you can get him on a little bit of a discount here, where he's at. Yeah, the hit tool is not the best, but the arm is great. The fielding is very good. He's such an insane athlete. And when you look at the overall profile of this player, the Colorado Rockies need this type of profile. They don't have a guy like this in their rankings, in their farm system. They need like an athletic outfielder who can potentially stick in center field. You know, he fits a little bit of this of the Zach Veen pick. You know, and I think the Rockies are going to really like Benny Montgomery, and you get him for a little bit of a discount too, which is always great. All right, number 9 here, LA Angels are on the clock, and they're going to select Jackson Jobe, the right-handed pitcher out of Oklahoma high school rankings. Jackson Jobe could have an actual argument of being one of the best, of being potentially the most talented player in this class. He's so good. The fastball movement and the overall control of it, you know, it's good at this point. It's not the best, but you know what is the best? One of the best sliders in this draft. And I think it might be the best slider if you look at the movement, if you look at the vertical axes, if you look at the TrackMan data. There's an argument that all his pitches are at least above average or elite, and he's only been pitching for a year, so he's only going to get better. And the LA Angels have done a decent job at like developing pitching. And this is just one of the best. This is just one of the best fits in this draft. I think this is an absolute steal for this pick. Jackson Jobe could have gone anywhere in this, in anywhere in terms of just from 2 to 9. He could have gone anywhere in this range. And they get Jobe at 9, which is an absolute steal. All right, 10 with the New York Mets. This is where we're finally going to see Kumar Rocker go off the board. Mets get to sit back and just take the best player on the board. That is Kumar Rocker at this point. You know, the fastball is not the best. If you look at vertical axes data, it's not exactly the best fastball in terms of movement. But I will say that his overall slider is one of the best in this class. He needs to develop better control. He needs to get a better feel of pitching. But I think Kumar Rocker is just too talented to pass up not going in the top 10. Kumar Rocker is a very talented pitcher, and the Mets get him at 10. So now we move on to the Washington Nationals at 11. And they're going to be taking an athletic freak in nature and Harry Ford at catcher. The Georgia catcher, you know, he's a little bit of a unique player. He doesn't really have a position just yet. He's at catcher right now, but he can easily move off catcher. He's also very fast and athletic. So he's kind of like a Dalton Varsho kind of player, where like the team could like see him and see the athleticism and say that, okay, well, you know what, he can move off catcher and he can play elsewhere for us. And I think that's what the Nationals are going to do with Harry Ford. Maybe you do put him behind catcher for about a year, and then you move him. But the athletic ceiling, the bat is really good. He's got elite raw power. I think Harry Ford is a very talented player, and I don't think the Nationals will pass up the opportunity to take him. All right, next up we have the Seattle Mariners at number 12 here, and they're going to be taking one of the most underrated players in this class. They're going to be taking Peyton Stovall, second baseman from the LA high school ranks. Just Peyton Stovall is a player that I think analytically minded teams are going to fall in love with. You see, like, the really good hitting ability. We see the growing power. We see the ability to basically make contact anywhere he wants. He is insane at just making contact. He has a very good feel for the bat and feel for the zone. He's got improving power. The defense at second base is honestly, when he's got this much tools in terms of his hit tool, it's not that really important. The fact that he might have to move, he might not be the best defender at second base. At this point, I don't really care about it. I just think that the value of the bat kind of overshadows like the below average, the average defense at second base. So Peyton Stovall goes number 12 to the Mariners. All right, number 13 here for the Philadelphia Phillies. They're going to be taking another really high riser. And this is another player that you might not have ever heard of before, but trust me, he's very good. They're going to be taking Trey Sweeney, number 13 overall. Trey Sweeney is one of my guys in this class. He's so slept on out of Eastern Illinois University. He might not be a pick that like you don't really know of, but that doesn't mean the fact that he's not good. He's so underrated in this class. A lot of publications are really sleeping on him. I don't really see his name that much in terms of just overall where he fits, but man, is he a really good hitter with really solid power. Trey Sweeney is built into the Heston Kjerstad type of player, where like, yes, he might miss in the zone, but he doesn't miss out of the zone. You just gotta get him a little bit more consistent. And I think the Phillies, they could go pitcher here, but I think the Phillies want a little bit more upside in their infield, so they're going to select Trey Sweeney out of Eastern Illinois University. Do not sleep on Trey Sweeney. Those are two prospects you can't sleep on. Trey Sweeney and Gavin Williams, do not sleep on those two prospects. They are much better than you think they are. Moving on now to number 14, San Francisco Giants. They're going to be taking a player that I thought could have gone top 10 this year, and it's going to be Gunnar Hoagland, right-handed pitcher out of Ole Miss. Hoagland has really good control. Hoagland has some really solid pitches. The issue is the Tommy John. However, I think that a team like the Giants are going to take a risk on that. Tommy John surgeries, hot take, aren't as deadly as they once were. I think that with the modern advances in medicine and how these baseball players can train, I don't think a Tommy John is that big of a setback anymore. It could potentially add velocity to some players' arms, and I think that Gunnar Hoagland is a prospect that I think is just too good to fall out of the top 15. Gunnar Hoagland is going to be a player that Farhan Zahidi and the Giants are going to love to get at number 14. Moving on to the Milwaukee Brewers, they're going to be taking an Indiana high schooler. They're going to be taking Colson Montgomery, third baseman. And Colson Montgomery is a player that has a lot of really high potential. He is such a solid. He's such a solid player. He's got a really good hit tool. He's got above average power. He has, he's a decent fielder at third base. Will he stay at third base? I don't really know. But Colson Montgomery to me just screams this kind of upside pick that I think the Brewers are gonna really like. He hits contact. He hits for a decent amount of power. I think Colson Montgomery is going to be a very, very, very talented player. Okay, so moving on here, and we're going to be moving on to the Miami Marlins, and they're going to be taking a really solid player here at number 16, and this is going to be Colton Cowser, outfielder out of Sam Houston State. So there's been a little bit of talk about Colton Cowser, a little bit of discussion about whether or not he is, a product of playing at a small school. will the pure hitting stats drop after he gets out of a small school, out of the small program? I don't really know how much it's going to drop. You do have to expect a tiny bit of a drop. But I think he's got solid power. I think he's got a really good feel for hitting. I think he's a very good center fielder. I think he has an incredibly strong arm. Cowser is a very talented. Colton Cowser is a very talented player, and I just think that he could potentially even. The reason why I think a lot of people have been trying to see if he can go top 10 is because that, he's got a lot of these tools. It's just about, whether or not, like, the small school, how much it really affected his stats. I don't think it affected his stats really, really, really all that much. But I do think that he's just such a solid player. He'll stick in center field. And I think the Miami Marlins need this right now. They need someone who can just stick in center field. Okay, so with the Reds pick here at 17, they're going to be taking another college bat here. They're going to be taking Sal Frelick, outfielder from Boston College. Sal Frelick has basically a couple things really good about him, but a couple things that are obviously going to hold him back. And I don't know how much a team really looks at him and says, I don't know if we can take this guy top 10. Because I think he has such a limited ceiling. And Frelick's main thing is that he's a really good hitter. He's super quick. He's a good fielder, and he's a good fielder either in a corner, or you can put him in center field, or potentially think about moving him to second base. But the thing about him is that he will never hit for an elite amount of power. He might have 45, 40 power. And when we talk about that kind of power, we're talking about guys like David Fletcher, Nick Madrigal, and like these type of prospects that are they players that you want on your team? Yes, but I also think that they're also players that I don't really know if a team could justify taking a top 10 or top 15 pick on him. But I think that for right now, where the Reds are as a franchise, they need someone who can get to the majors really quickly. And I think that Sal Frelick is going to be that player for them. So really solid pick here, and a really good fit here for Sal Frelick to go from Boston College to Cincinnati Reds. All right, so at 18, we're taking a really good contact hitting another college bat, contact hitting shortstop Matt McLain at a UCLA. Matt McLain is a really solid player. Makes a lot of contact. I think he has growing power. I think he's a very good fielder. Very, very, very good arm at shortstop. He's really improved every year. He's gotten to UCLA. He's improved every year. I think that Matt McLain is one of the most solid players in this class. I think the Cardinals would be very happy to take him at 18. A little bit of a low ceiling pick, but just a player that you feel really safe about. He makes you feel safe at night thinking about Matt McLain, almost like a warm blanket. Okay, I'm just spitting nonsense at this point. We have fun here on this channel, don't we, people? All right, so coming up number 19 for the Toronto Blue Jays here. And we're going to be taking Will Bednar, right-handed pitcher out of Mississippi State, one of the highest risers in this draft due to not only his great year he had at Mississippi State, but also due to his fantastic performance in the college baseball playoffs, and especially the College Baseball World Series. Will Bednar is a really good pitcher, and now the Blue Jays get a potential rotation in the future of Alek Manoah, Nate Pearson, and now Will Bednar. I like that. I like that for the future. So now we move on to number 20 with the New York Yankees. They will be selecting South Carolina high schooler outfielder Will Taylor. Will Taylor is a prospect that has some differing opinions on. I personally think he's a top 20 player in this class. I really like Will Taylor. I think he's really solid. I think he's growing a little bit into his power. I think he's a very good athlete. Obviously, he can just absolutely fly. And we look at the profile for the Yankees here at 20. They need somebody who can give them a little bit more athleticism, who can give them a little bit more of that upside. Because right now, the Major League team for the Yankees is just full of unathletic guys who are just unathletic, not the best base runners in the world. Will Taylor gives them a little bit of a change up to that, where he is fast, he's athletic, he's a good center fielder. I think he could stick in center field. He's continuing to add on power to his frame, and I think Will Taylor is a very solid pick here for the New York Yankees. All right, so we're almost done with our mock draft here, and we go to number 21 with the Chicago Cubs. They will be taking Ty Madden, the right-handed pitcher out of Texas. Now, Ty Madden is a player that has been a really fast dropper for me. He's definitely not one of my guys in this class, but mainly because of his below-average fastball, and really outside of one pitch, his slider, it's just like Ty Madden doesn't really have another really pitch. But I think that Ty Madden could fix his fastball. And in terms of his movement and his shape of his fastball, I think a good coaching staff could definitely fix that. And I think the Cubs are going to really like Ty Madden, who can give them a little bit of floor with their pitching. And potentially even someone who can get up to the majors very quickly. So now we head on to the south side of Chicago with the number 22nd pick. And the Chicago White Sox will select Gage Jump, left-handed pitcher out of California high school ranks. Gage Jump is not the tallest guy in the world. He's only listed at 5'10", and he seriously needs to work on his control and his command. But at this point, I think you need a pitcher for the White Sox who can give them a little bit more upside, and not someone like Garrett Crochet, where he's so obviously a reliever and someone who could have really bad arm issues down the line. And I personally think that Gage Jump could give them that flexibility in their farm system, and I really like Gage Jump as a prospect. Again, fix the control, fix the command a little bit, and you got a really good pitcher on your hands. So Gage Jump goes to the White Sox. All right, Indians here at 23 are getting a very special player. They are going to be getting Andrew Painter, the right-handed pitcher out of Florida high school ranks. The Indians are notorious for their really good pitching development, and they're getting a guy, Andrew Painter, who you look at him and you say, there is no way this guy has solid mechanics. He's 6'7", around 210 pounds. He's a big, strong kid. There is just no way he has good mechanics. And you look at the mechanics, you look at the spin, you look at the really good fastball, and you're like, this guy's much better than what he's actually being propped up as. And I think the Indians, with their development, getting Andrew Painter, man, this is a very special pick for the Indians. They would be ecstatic to get Andrew Painter at this point. I could really see Andrew Painter turning into an absolute beast with the Indians. All right, 24 with the Braves here. They're going to be taking a really high riser for me, and a player that's been so slept on. I don't understand it. Arizona outfielder Ryan Holgate. This is a player that you're not going to see in the first round draft talks, but I overall think that he's just so solid. He's got a really good hit tool. He's really athletic. He's got a really underrated power tool. He can run pretty well. Ryan Holgate is a player that just kind of needs more love. I don't really know why people are kind of sleeping on him as a prospect. They say he's not athletic. They say he's not a good runner. I personally just disagree with that assessment. I think Ryan Holgate is one of the most underrated players in this draft. And really taking him for the Braves here at 24. Get themselves a really good outfielder. All right, so we only have a couple more picks left, so let's get into number 25 here with the Oakland Athletics. We're going to be taking Joshua Baez at the Massachusetts high school ranks. Joshua Baez is a pretty polarizing prospect. only because he's got a really big amount of power, but he just doesn't really use it correctly yet. He has some discipline issues. He does have some really good he's got some decent athleticism, even though he's not that big of a runner. I think that Joshua Baez could fit really well he could fit really well with the A's. I think that Billy Beane and the A's are really going to like this player. Just an insane arm, a decent run tool. It's just like the fact that you kind of have to teach him how to be a more disciplined player. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Jordan Walker. Maybe Walker is a little bit more developed than Joshua Baez. But still a little bit of the same thing here. Joshua Baez is a very, very solid prospect, and the A's will be very happy to get him. Coming up now with the Minnesota Twins, they'll be selecting Frank Mazzucato, left-handed pitcher out of Connecticut high school ranks. Frank Mazzucato is a very, very, very solid left-handed pitcher. He's got a really good repertoire for what he does. He's got a really, really, really strong curveball. He's got a really solid fastball. He's a bit of a two-pitch pitcher, but I think the Twins will be really happy to get Frank Mazzucato, and that's who they're going to be going with here at number 26. Alright, so San Diego Padres here at 27. They're going to be getting a little bit of a weird player here, a little bit of a unique player at 27. They're going to be selecting, in my opinion, Bubba Chandler, the right-handed pitcher / shortstop from Georgia. I think Bubba Chandler will be a starting pitcher long-term. I'm not sure if he can really stick at shortstop. He's a bit inconsistent with his bat. I think he's not the best pure hitter. I think he's got about average power. I think if he was just a pure hitter, I probably wouldn't touch him until like the 3rd or 4th round. But as a pitcher, I think he's a really, really solid pitcher. And I think that this is where a lot of his value will come from. And the fact that he's a pitcher. But I think the main issue with him is some ability issues. He's committed to play quarterback at Clemson. But, I don't think that's that big of an issue. I think he's a very, very, very solid prospect. And I really do like Bubba Chandler. I think the Padres are going to develop him. Alright, Rays here at pick number 28. We only have 2 picks left. And they're going to be selecting left-handed pitcher Anthony Salamanto from New Jersey High School. Salamanto's kind of a unique player. He reminds some scouts of Madison Bumgarner because he's got a little bit of a unique windup. He kind of has Mad Bum's windup. But I think that Salamanto is one of the most solid players, is probably one of the most safest high school pitchers in this draft. I think that the Rays are really going to like that. I think the Rays are going to fall in love with Salamanto. He shouldn't get past the first round, and if he does, you're getting a steal in the second round. I really love Anthony Salamanto. He's so solid, good fastball, good slider, really, really above average control. With a little bit more seasoning, he can become a very good pitcher. So with our last pick here, the Los Angeles Dodgers will be selecting Jay Allen, the outfielder from Florida high school ranks. Jay Allen is one of the most slept-on prospects in this class. I probably could have taken him a lot earlier, and honestly, I wouldn't really question it. I could probably justify him going anywhere from 25 to the end of the first round, and if you get him past the first round, it's a steal. But he does eventually end up sneaking into the first round with the Dodgers at 29. And, Jay Allen is really, really, really solid. He's a very solid prospect. He's got really good athleticism. He's added power to his bat. I think he's a bit under-scouted. I really don't think that people have got enough looks at him. Because if they did, they would see how much tools he's really added. I really like Jay Allen. He goes here to the 29 for the Dodgers. And the Dodgers get a really solid player. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of a longer video today, around 35 minutes. So this one was a really long, little bit of a longer video, but a little bit beefy. But you know, I wanted to give my appropriate analysis on all these picks that I'm selecting. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a wonderful night. Take care. And I cannot wait for the draft. And we're going to have even more draft content coming at you. So with that being said, have a wonderful night and take care.